Wander over yonder, in The Return to Equestria written by Angel Shy 24, preparing for a celebration. This castle looks amazing. Wander suddenly shouted as he and Sylvia found themselves standing about a yard away in front of Twilight's castle with Fluttershy and Rarity. They were quite surprised to suddenly see it here despite of how long it has been since they left. They stared at its large and tall magnificence and were in total shock of its appearance. "Now that's a castle," said Sylvia. "Hard to believe this humongous, gigantic, crystal structure appeared out of a small treasure box that was probably no bigger than my head, and imagining pulling out a castle out of my head is kinda weird." "It's marvelous, isn't it?" said Rarity. "It's the most beautiful castle I've ever seen, no offense to Celestia." Fluttershy was quite happy that Wander and Sylvia were amazed of Twilight's new castle. "If you two think it looks this beautiful on the outside, just wait until you see the inside. Jay, just make sure not to touch anything you're not familiar with." "I wouldn't bet on that happening, sister," Sylvia muttered to Fluttershy while pointing at Wander, "but don't worry, I have my ways of keeping him away from trouble, even though it doesn't work sometimes." Wander looked up at the top of the castle, saw a sight that dazzled him. "Check it out, it even has Miss Twilight's cutie mark right up on the top. That is so cool." Sylvia just smirked while shaking her head, as if we needed an obvious visual proof of this being her castle. As they were all about to head inside, a shadow was suddenly looming over them, or better yet, it was zooming over them. It was quite obvious to them of who it was as they looked above and saw a rainbow-maned Pegasus flying around doing aerial tricks. "Well well," said Rarity, "it seems that another one of our friends has arrived just in time, such a show-off." "Sup, girls," shouted the Pegasus as she came in for a landing. "Hope you don't mind if I drop in on this little conversation." "Rainbow Dash," shouted Wander in excitement. Rainbow Dash landed on the ground and immediately greeted the two visitors. "I thought I saw two familiar faces that I've seen before. The awesome alien duo, Wander and Sylvia." "Nice entrance, as I expected," said Sylvia smirking as she gave Rainbow Dash a fist/hoof bump. "You know it." Rainbow Dash responded. Wander placed his fist out to her too so he wouldn't feel left out. "Put him there, RD." Rainbow Dash smirked as she held out her hoof. "Sure, little guy." But as she lunged her hoof forward, she accidentally hit all of Wander and sent him flying off of Sylvia. "Whoops, sorry, guess I underestimated my own strength." "No worries," said Wander as he got back up easily. "I am okay. But in any case, it's pretty awesome to see you two here after all of this time. In fact, you couldn't have come at a better time." Wander suddenly zoomed back into group. We know. A huge birthday celebration of a royal princess. This will be the best day ever." Sylvia just shrugged her shoulders. I've possibly been to better ones already." "Sylvia," shouted Wander sounding surprised. "Ha ha, I'm just messing with ya, little rascal." Sylvia picked up Wander and gave him a nougie on his head. "This will be without a doubt the best party we've ever been to, so far. Good enough for me." Rainbow Dash was laughing, feeling amused from the duo's strong friendship bond. "You guys are just as wisecracking and joyous as I remembered ya. Welcome back to Equestria." Suddenly, something caught Wander's eye that he didn't notice before. A small box that was sticking out of a bag that Rarity was wearing. His curiosity got the best of him as he went up beside her and asked, "By the way, Miss Rarity, I couldn't help but notice that you're carrying a neat little box. What's inside it?" Rarity smirked at Wander as she lightly pushed him away and told him, "Not to worry, darling, you'll see soon enough. In any case, I do believe that we should be going inside the castle for our meeting." "Oh, Rarity is right," said Fluttershy, "we have to hurry and not keep the others waiting." Yeah, said Rainbow Dash, "we have a meeting to attend to, we understand. I'm sure Twilight won't blow up at us if we were a little late." As they all continued their way to the castle, Sylvia asked, "So what's the meaning behind this meeting? Sounds important if it involves all bearers of the elements." "Just going over the necessary precautions and preparations for the celebration tomorrow," Rarity answered. "With a celebration like this, who knows what kind of uncouth ruffians would love to ruin it. We have to be ready for anything." The last time something like that happened was during the wedding celebration of Twilight's brother and Princess Cadence when the changelings invaded, said Rainbow Dash, beating her hooves together. "No way we're going to let something like that happen again." "Oh yeah, Twilight did tell us that sometime after they ran Lord Hater off," said Sylvia. Too bad I couldn't be part of that action." "Trust us, you wouldn't," said Rarity. "Anyway, it is an obvious necessity to have as much protection and security as possible for such a special occasion. It's really great and all that this party is going protected really well, but it just sounds like a lot of trouble just to throw a party, even if it is for a royal princess. We should just party without any worries at all. No pony says that we can't protect and have fun at the same time. Besides, being serious makes me look cool." "Well, don't worry," said Sylvia. "I'm sure you guys can handle protecting the party. You guys are awesome, as I am proud to say, and can handle anything. And if anyone is hunting Wander and me down right now like before, if they know what's good for them, they better not set one foot on this planet. Dash 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 shoo. Gwet, someone must be talking about me. Probably that hater Moan and his minion, or that weird discount guy. Lil Bits was on her way to the main town of Ponyville in hopes to find and capture Wander and Sylvia. When she got close, she found a nice tree that housed a small fort of some kind and climbed on top of the roof, where she decided to take a quick reprieve while checking her bag with her tools. She was also taking that moment to look at the layover of the town, seeing its many pony inhabitants. For a small town, this puss is pretty expansive, she said to herself. When Hater said that this place was inhabited by ponies, he wasn't kidding, they're everywhere. Based on what Discord said to her, she knew that she had to be careful since most ponies in the town might know about her thanks to her enemies. Because of my sneaky and superior skills, it shall be easy for me to infiltrate and capture we Wander and Sylvia. But how do I it without drawing too much attention to mischief? Pues, what was up with that Discord creep anyway, putting his nose in my business? She then looked at her new temporary fur color and dress again and sighed as she just rolled her eyes. Oh well, as long as this excuse helps me to achieve my mission, I really don't care. Just then, she suddenly started to get a whiff of an smelly stench that was around her and got her distracted. Ugh, something stinks, and this is from someone who eats smewy fish for vunk. She smelled her dress and then under her own arm, wondering, is it me? Do I stink? But then, Lil Bit's mind was taken off of the smell as she suddenly heard a voice near where she was. No way. Are you serious right now? They're really back. What's this? Said Lil Bits as she peeked over the side of the treehouse roof where she heard the voice. From there she saw 3 young fillies standing nearby the tree, a Pegasus, a unicorn, and a regular-looking pony. She noticed that they were talking about something that sounded like a big deal. So, is it true, Apple Bloom, is it? Of course, that is what I said, Sweetie Belle. They practically came down from above our farm. It was almost like what happened when they came here the first time. Who are those 3 talking about? Said Lil Bits to herself suspiciously as she was trying to listen to what the 3 fillies were saying. Suddenly, she heard the one named Scoodaloo say to Apple Bloom, well, I can't believe writing and sending a letter into space the way you did actually worked. It was almost like it was fate. No, right. Wander and Sylvia are such good friends to have around, and they helped out a lot when their nemesis came here and caused a lot of trouble. After hearing that bit of info, a small, sinister smile came upon Lil Bit's face as she chuckled and said, so, those 3 know Wander and Sylvia Pusonoi, huh? She then quietly crawled herself across a nearby branch until she was right above them so she could hear them more clearly of what they were going to say next. This has suddenly gotten interesting. So what are we waiting for? Shouted Scoodaloo in excitement, let's go see them. Patience, Scoodaloo, patience, said Apple Bloom, but first, we have to finish our thing for the party tomorrow, then we'll go and see them. Oh yeah, that's right, said Sweetie Belle, we don't want to put that off at the last minute. Yeah, I guess, said Scoodaloo, so let's not waste any time. Lil Bits was quite curious as she was leaning over the branch wondering of how to take advantage of the situation. I could spend most of my time trying to find and capture we Wander and Sylvia, or I could quiet foul out those 3 and be would straight to them to save me the 12 we. But do I want to trail behind a few pony bots? But just then, she heard a sudden cracking sound that worried her. What's that sound? Then there was a loud snap and Lil Bits saw that the branch she was on had snapped in half. Fish sticks. The branch fell, and so did Lil Bits. She was caught off guard and couldn't grab onto any nearby branches on the way down. As this was happening, the Crusaders were about to head off to Sweet Apple Acres when they suddenly heard a loud thump behind them. Whoa, what was that? Said Scoodaloo. The 3 Crusaders quickly turned around to see what the sudden noise was, and what they saw shocked them. Look girls, cooed Apple Bloom as she ran up to what she saw, it's a cute little kitten. Sweetie Belle and Scoodaloo went over to her and saw Lil Bit slowly getting up from her fall, but of course since she looked different, they didn't recognize her as the deadly assassin that Wander and Sylvia described to them about during their last visit. Oh my Celestia, shouted Sweetie Belle, I just want to squeeze it with lots of love. Me too, said Scoodaloo, but then she blushed as she changed her words, but you know, not that much. Once Lil Bits recognized her surroundings, she saw the 3 young fillies staring down at her with glimmering eyes, but thankfully for her, they didn't know who she was. Oh Gwet, they spotted me and want to cover me with love. What do I do now? Stupid tree. Apple Bloom sat on her haunches as she picked Lil Bits up in front of her and stared into her eyes saying, are ya okay, little kitty? That was a nasty fall you had there. Meow for us if you're not hurt. Oh well, I might as well go along with this, Lil Bits thought to herself, I can't blow my cover just yet. She then looked up at Apple Bloom showing off her signature cutsy eyes and released a soft little, meow. OMG, she responded. Apple Bloom shouted in delight, that's adorable. Scoodaloo was looking at the dress Lil Bits was wearing and shuddered a bit, I wonder why it's wearing a dress. Ugh, it looks too frilly. Oh relax, Scoodaloo, said Sweetie Belle, it's hers and it looks like she loves it. Suddenly, Scoodaloo took a closer look at Lil Bits and then said, hey, wait a minute. The more she stared at her, the more Lil Bits began to sweat thinking that the Pegasus filly figured her out, but it was a false alarm. She doesn't have a collar. Lil Bits then took a huge sigh of relief seeing she had nothing to worry about. "You're right," said Apple Bloom, "she doesn't have a collar, which means, gassed she doesn't have a home. She's been abandoned." "Ah, poor kitty," said Sweetie Belle. Scootaloo wasn't quite sure of that though. "What makes you so sure of that fact?" "Well, just look at her," said Apple Bloom holding up Lil Bits. "She's just a simple-minded cat. Do you really think she would be capable to find a dress this pretty and have the means to put it on herself?" Lil Bits just groaned, feeling like she was verbally insulted. "See, she even groans from her terrible misfortune." "She does have a point," said Sweetie Belle. Scootaloo then sniffed Lil Bits and scrunched up her nose. "Well, she must have gone through some trash or something. She reeks." "Ew, you're right, Scootaloo," said Apple Bloom after she sniffed Lil Bits herself. "Someone's a dirty kitty." "Oh gwet," Lil Bits thought to herself, "so that smell is me. How can that be? I smewed just fine until I came aclose. Discord, that sneaky, ungrateful jerk. He did this to me." "Well, even if neither of us ends up keeping her," said Sweetie Belle, "what do you girls say that we try and spruce her up a bit? Our project can wait for a bit." By the way of what the Crusaders were describing, Lil Bits was almost afraid of what they were saying. "Wait, she doesn't mean," then all Crusaders shouted at the same time, "Bath time." Oh no. Before Lil Bits knew it, she was brought back to Sweet Apple Acres farm by the Crusaders. They quickly filled a wooden tub with soap and water, and then stripped Lil Bits of her garments. She yelped as she was placed into the water, and now she was all drenched. She was getting ready to come out, but Sweetie Belle held her in place with her magic while Scootaloo began scrubbing her with a loofah brush. Unfortunately for her that during that moment, she almost forgot about her little bag of tools that was still in the tree that she was in. "Don't worry, kitty," said Scootaloo, "you may hate this, but you'll find it all worth it once we get you all nice and clean, and back in your, pretty dress." "I'll quickly wash her dress," said Apple Bloom, "and you two can continue to wash her." "Not to worry, Apple Bloom," said Sweetie Belle proudly, "I dealt with Opal a lot at Rarities. This is easy peasy." "Scootaloo just scoffed," says the filly with unicorn magic. Lil Bits was using every ounce of her strength to try and get out of the magical hold Sweetie had on her, but it proved to be useless. She then gave up and just sat there lightly growling, accepting her unexpected fate. "What have I gotten myself into? If I ever find that wetch Dwaconiquus again, I'll cue him." Before long, Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo had finished washing her and then took her out to dry with a towel. Lil Bits was still trying to comprehend how she went from hunting 2 bounty targets to being drowned in water and washed by a couple of little fillies. They were now up in Apple Bloom's room where they met up with her and showed her their accomplishment. "She smells so much better now, don't you think?" asked Scootaloo. "Whatever this cat got into must have been very foul." "She did struggle a bit," said Sweetie Belle, "but I'm sure she'll thank us later." She then gave Lil Bits a little pat on her head. "Isn't that right, little kitty?" Lil Bits lowly growled as she thought to herself, "Not on your wife, Marshmallow." After all of that was taken care of, the next matter of business came up in Apple Bloom's mind. "So what name should we give her?" "Oh, how about Kitty Paws?" Scootaloo suggested. "Cute, but too random of a name." "Snowbell?" Sweetie Belle cheerfully suggested. Apple Bloom and Scootaloo looked at her with arched eyes and said, "Seriously? Idiots," Lil Bits thought to herself. Apple Bloom looked at her closely and then decided, well, she definitely has that snowy-like color, so instead, let's call her Snowball. Scootaloo thought about it, but then thought it was a great name. A bit cliché, but I like it. Snowball it is then. "Oh, okay," said Sweetie Belle, "I guess her name is Snowball then." Then under breath, she pouted a bit. Wrong with Snowbell anyway? Apple Bloom already had a tall box ready that they were going to put Lil Bits in temporarily while they finished their main business. After placing her inside, Apple Bloom looked at her and said, "Be a good kitty cat, Snowball, and stay in this box while your dress dries out, okay?" She then turned to her friends and commanded, "Now come on, girls. We got a job to finish." "Yeah." After they went off, Lil Bits felt fed up with being pampered so much by a bunch of little fillies and planned to flee, as well as to fetch her bag that she accidentally left up top a tree. "Me, stay inside this box like some washed-up little pet, not on their wife. Naked or not, I'll figooey out something, and I'll find Yonder and Sivia Mischief." But just when she was about to leap out of the box, Apple Bloom stepped back into the room and said, "Oh, by the way, Snowball, if you're a good kitty and stay while you dry, I'll give you a treat. We have a nice little fishy dish in our fridge that Noppany wants, but I'm sure you will. Then afterwards, we'll show you to some of our friends in Ponyville." After she left again, Lil Bits could have taken that chance to try and flee again, but it had been a while since she ate at that galactic restaurant, and her tummy was rumbling just thinking about having fish placed in her gut. Feeling like she sat back down in the box and brooded to herself, "I guess my poi can wait just a whittle longer, they're just lucky that I like fish." Meanwhile, Rarity's cat, Opal, at some point decided to venture a bit outside of the Carousel Boutique. She wandered around scratching trees and chasing bird without a care in the world, but at some point she was strutting around the tree of the Crusaders' treehouse picking up an unusual scent. Then suddenly, the small bag of tools that Little Bits had was already slightly sliding of the branch it was on and then fell on the ground right behind Opal. Opal jumped a bit and then turned around only to see small bag that fell. She cautiously went over to it, sniffed it, and batted it a couple of times to see if anything happened. Pretty soon, Opal took a liking to its strange texture and decided to keep it as her own. She smiled as she picked it up in her mouth and happily walked off back towards the boutique to enjoy her new toy. Pinkie Pie was already waiting with Spike and Twilight inside the treasured castle, waiting for the others to arrive so they could discuss over things for tomorrow's event. A short while ago, Applejack had already arrived and that only left Fluttershy, Rainbow Dash and Rarity. Applejack told Twilight, Pinkie and Spike that she had some amazing news to share, but she chose to wait for the others to arrive to reveal it. But as always, Pinkie just couldn't wait as she was constantly jumping in place. "Can't ya stay still for 5 minutes, Pinkie?" questioned Applejack. "You should know me better than that, Applejack," Pinkie answered as she kept on jumping around the throne room. "I can so contain myself when I want to, but right now, I'm just so excited." "We're all definitely excited for what takes place tomorrow, Pinkie," said Twilight as she was going through some notes. "Now if only the rest of the girls would show up so we can go over the necessary precautions. Everything must go perfectly for Princess Luna's special day." Pinkie suddenly rose up right beside Applejack and pressed her head against hers and said, "Suwoo, Applejack, you mentioned earlier about some amazing news that you wanted to tell us." "Yep, that's right. Well, can you tell us now? Please please please." Applejack just patted Pinkie on the head while smirking. "I'd be happy to, Pinkie, right after the others get here. It'll be better to tell ya all at once." "Aw man, you're killing me, Applejack," said Pinkie as she zoomed over to her throne chair and was constantly fidgeting. "I can't wait that long." Spike was lounging in his chair beside Twilight munching on some gems. He looked over at Applejack and suggested, "Maybe you should go ahead and tell her, Applejack, before she, blows a gasket." Just then, everyone's attention was up on alert when the entrance doors of the throne room opened and a loud and expressive voice spoke out. "But why tell them about the surprise, when they can see us with their own eyes?" They all looked towards the doors and saw standing in the doorway was Yonder and Sylvia, the alien duo that they remembered that came here, made friends with them, and helped ward off Hater's army away from their planet. "What the?" said Twilight. "No way," said Spike. And all Pinkie could do was loudly gasp in shock, but Applejack just smiled and said, "Well, how about that?" They all also noticed that Fluttershy, Rarity and Rainbow Dash came in right behind Yonder and Sylvia as they came in and was admiring the throne room. "Wow, Fluttershy was right," said Sylvia, "this palace really is more impressive on the inside." All say, Yonder agreed, "And this throne room looks amazing. I'll give it a 9.5 tops." Just then, Yonder found himself being tackled on the ground again by Pinkie as she was jumping up and down in excitement. "Oh my gosh, oh 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 my gosh. It's you guys, Yonder and Sylvia. You're back." "That's right," said Yonder as she got back up. "Are ya happy to see us?" "Happy. Try ecstatic. I had no idea that we were going to see you guys today, let alone anytime soon." Pinkie then noticed the others that were trailing behind them, Fluttershy, Rainbow Dash, Rarity. "I guess you girls don't need to be told of the surprise, since you're here with them I mean." "Yep, they just showed up out of nowhere right at my doorstep," said Fluttershy smiling. "It was a huge surprise for me too." Pinkie suddenly looked towards Sylvia with her arms open wide. "You get a big pony hug too." Sylvia smiled nervously and was trying to refuse, "No thanks, I don't really," but she was suddenly cut off as Pinkie wrapped her hooves around her body and gave her a good, loving squeeze that almost took her breath away. Once Pinkie let go, Sylvia was gasping for breath. "And man, you're strong for a pink pony." "I know, right?" said Pinkie cheerfully. "Sometimes I don't even know my own strength." "Hey, Twilight," Spike whispered, "with those two suddenly here, do you know what this means?" "Yeah," Twilight whispered back, "it means that Apple Bloom's plan with her letter to those two actually worked." "That's unbelievable. I wasn't sure if it was actually going to work, but I guess I was mistaken." Yonder then walked over to Twilight and took a little bow to show his respect to her. "Greetings, Your Majesty, and may I say that you have one swell castle here." "Oh, and sorry about your treehouse, Miss Fluttershy told us everything." "It's a real pleasure to see you two again," said Twilight with a pleasant smile. "This is definitely a pleasant surprise that came out of nowhere. And don't worry about the treehouse, it couldn't be helped." "Well, I'm sure that this Tyrek guy you fought didn't make things easy for you," said Sylvia as she approached from behind Yonder. "But on the plus side, at least you got this sweet pad of a castle out of it." "I know, right," said Spike. "I mean the treehouse was nice and all with all the main necessities we needed in all of those books. But now we have this huge castle with cool-looking thrones, a giant map that takes us on awesome adventures. With stuff like this, who needs books?" Twilight looked down at Spike with an arched eyebrow seeing if he really meant that. Spike chuckled nervously and just stated, besides, you have a whole bunch of newer books and documents and stuff, so, all is good, all is good. Anyway, said Twilight as she looked back at the alien duo, I may have lost a lot, but in the end I gained something much more valuable than books and documented notes. Sylvia crossed her arms and smirked at Twilight asking, would that something happen to be friendship? Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. I thought as much. No need to hide that fact from me. Yeah, friendship should be the most important thing in anyone's life, said Yonder. What else could be more awesome than that? Suddenly, wanting to be on schedule, Twilight looked at Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy and Rarity and stated, well, speaking of friends, it's about time the rest of you got here. This meeting of ours is very urgent to discuss. Oh, right, sorry that we're a little late, said Fluttershy as she pulled out the special bouquet basket of flowers that she had. I made a little stop somewhere to pick up my present for Princess Luna. See? I just happened to run into her on the way here, said Rarity. So what, said Rainbow Dash, not seeming to care too much. We were only late for a few minutes, Twilight. It's not the end of the world. I know, it's just that. I just don't want anything to go wrong. I just want to make sure that we got everything covered. Well, we're all here now, said Pinkie, so let's get this meeting started. Twilight and the rest of her friends made their way to their thrones to start off with their meeting. However, Yonder and Sylvia had nowhere sit. Too bad we don't have our own thrones, Yonder, said Sylvia. No worries, said Spike as he pushed up 2 regular crystal chairs near the throne circle. You two can use these. Yonder and Sylvia walked up to and sat onto the chairs and was adjusting themselves to get comfortable. They'll do, Sylvia said. Just then, she looked over at Yonder, who was chuckling a bit while wobbling his chair back and forth making a squeaking sound. He saw Sylvia staring and stopped and told her, sorry, couldn't help myself. Now that everyone was together for the meeting, Twilight wasn't quite sure of how to start things off due to her slight inner stress. Okay, so, we're all here, and we all know why we're here, right? Oh, I know the answer, shouted Yonder as he raised his hand, but Sylvia just grabbed it and put it down. Of course we know, Twilight, said Rainbow Dash, rolling her eyes. Luna's birthday is tomorrow, and there's a huge celebration with food, fun, and entertainment of many kinds. And we've been specifically given the task to be there to not only have fun, but also assist in helping to protect the event in any way we can and make sure nothing goes wrong. Did I leave anything out, except the fact that you're worrying too much? I'm not worrying too much, Twilight suddenly shouted, making everyone in the room jump up. Twilight then calmed down and stated, sorry about that sudden outburst, but I'm just trying to point out that a lot of the times that we're involved with some big event or celebration of some kind, there's always something out there somewhere just waiting to ruin it. Amen to that, sister, said Sylvia. Well, I think that it's a real honor that the princesses trusts us with this kind of task, said Fluttershy. Why not? Said Pinkie, they've trusted us with many other things so far. I bet they'll come to us for anything. I wouldn't go that far, Applejack stated. But what about all of the royal guards that they have? Asked Wonder, being curious. Surely they'll be doing their royal garden dutiness, right? Twilight nodded. Oh yeah, they'll be guarding the event 24/7. Just think of us, as a last resort, saving the best for last, just in case. That always seems to be the case, doesn't it? Said Spike, who sighed. But hey, that just means you girls are really important and are a real threat to anyone who threatens Equestria. You got that right, shouted Rainbow Dash, and with the new rainbow power we've obtained, who would dare mess with us now? Rarity just rolled her eyes as she slightly smiled, saying, there she goes again, getting a big head just because we've obtained some new power from the Tree of Harmony. Although, the hairstyles that come with it are fabulous. The meeting was going by quickly and it seemed that it wasn't going to last too long after all. But then, Wanda remembered that Fluttershy had a present for Princess Luna's birthday. So if she had one, he could wait to see what the others might have gotten her. Yeah, no, Wanda started, seeing the special present that Fluttershy got for the princess named Luna. I couldn't help but ask, what are the rest of you getting her? The others could see Wanda staring at them with a leading grin, hoping that they would reveal to him of what he wanted to know. Better tell him, said Sylvia, smirking while sitting back in her chair. He won't stop asking until you do. Twilight then chuckled as she answered, well, if you must know, Celestia and I have discovered an old poetry book that Luna loved to read all of the time back when she was younger. It's been lost for years, ever since she was banished to the moon, so it's not exactly in the best condition. But since it was a coincidence that we found it a couple of months before this huge event, I happily volunteered to rewrite and restore the whole book, all 1,000 pages of them. It was so much fun. Sylvia's eyes went wide from hearing that short story and said, whoa whoa whoa, you wrote 1,000 pages of an old book within just a couple of months. Don't worry, said Twilight, I made sure to add in the description of the original writer and publisher to show that I'm not trying to steal some pony else's work. That's not what I meant, but, good to know. Wander was excited to hear about the other gifts. I'm going to give her a little box of special treats that I made specifically for her birthday, said Pinkie as she raised up a moderate-sized box and opened it. Inside were little mini cakes that were in the shape of crescent moons. I made her moon cakes. See, delicious, cream-filled chocolate hoof-sized cakes in the shape of moons. However, this is actually my 5th batch because I kinda kept eating them before I put them in the box because they're so good. Neat! Yonder shouted. Rarity then took out a box that she had with her and pulled out a long, violet cape-like robe with fluffy white hems. It featured a silhouette of Luna's head in the center with little diamond chips surrounding all around it as a bunch of stars in the night. This beautiful, gorgeous piece of fabric that I made from my own 2 hooves is a wonderful robe that fit for a princess of her beauty. I'm sure she won't mind flaunting this around at her celebration for all to see. Oh, so sparkly, said Yonder in awe, so that's what was in the box that you were carrying earlier. A bit too sparkly for my taste, said Sylvia, but not bad. As for me, said Applejack, I know that there's already going to be a lot of food there, and I wasn't sure what else to give her, so I just made her a homemade birthday card. Nothing fancy, but it will come across the same way. I am sure she's going to love it, said Yonder. Suddenly, Rainbow Dash hovered above her throne and began to say, yeah, well, while all of you are giving her a physical gift, I will be giving her a gift for her eyes. I'm going to give her the most amazing, spectacular, awesome flight show ever done by me, Rainbow Dash, the multi-trick pony. Just the thought of what Rainbow Dash might have planned, Yonder stood up in his seat and began clapping and cheering. Amazing. Hopefully it will be as amazing as the way you describe it, said Sylvia smirking at Rainbow Dash. Hey, don't patronize me. Rainbow Dash scoffed. Just wait until the time comes for me to do my thing. Any doubts you may have will be blown from your mind. Yonder suddenly shifted his way over to Spike wanting for him to say something, but he didn't. So he asked him, so, what about you? What do you have for a present for Luna? Spike almost jumped from Yander's sudden appearance and said, my respect and good wishes? Yander had a confused look thinking that Spike was just joking around. I forgot to make her something, okay. I was busy doing stuff and lost track of time. Well, it's no big deal, Spike, said Twilight. Not every pony going to the party probably don't have much of an idea for a present good enough for Luna, but just being there to wish her a happy birthday and being good company will be a good enough present to her. She then looked over at Yonder and Sylvia, and the same goes for you two as well. I'm sure she'll be pleased to see you. Well, as long as I don't have to try and think of a present at the last minute, said Sylvia smirking, now that would be a hassle. Suddenly, the cutie marks of Twilight and her friends began to glow, along with the marks on their thrones. They knew what was happening, but Yonder and Sylvia were caught off guard when the ground began to shake under their feet. WHWH what's H happening? Yonder shouted. H how should I know? Sylvia shouted in response. To their amazement, they both saw a huge crystal that almost covered the center area rise up from the ground. They soon saw that it was a giant map that showed many different lands throughout Equestria. Whoa, said Sylvia in shock, let me guess, this must be the map that Little Dragon mentioned a little while ago? Pretty awesome, isn't it? Said Spike, seeing their reactions. This is amazing, shouted Yonder in excitement as he was zipping all across the map. Is this the entire land of Equestria? Yep, said Applejack, any land that exists here in our world you can see it right here. See, there's Sweet Apple Acres right there, and this is where we are. That is so adorable, said Yonder. Look at the cute, whittle-sized towns and cities and locales. Twilight then pointed her hoof at a certain area at the map as she stated, and this here is Canterlot. The celebration will take place around here on castle grounds, and it will be heavily guarded all around it. Every pony that gets there will be searched, and there are even Pegasus guards in the air for those who decide to arrive there from above. Yeah, that's some pretty tight security you guys have there, said Sylvia as she stretched out her limbs. I guess everything will be just fine after all, no worries. Sylvia is right, said Yonder, with security as tight as this, there is no way any baddies are going to get through to ruin all of the fun. But I still think it might be a little overkill. Well, from past experiences, you two should know in our world, one can't be too careful, said Rainbow Dash. You never know when some pony tries to disguise their appearance, whether it's to get what they want or to ruin some pony else's experience. Sylvia suddenly folded her arms and gave a little scowl as a certain someone came to mind. I can name a certain enemy of ours that definitely masked her appearance to get what she wanted. Ah, you must be talking about that little kitty assassin you mentioned from before, right? Said Rarity. Little Bits was it? Yeah, that's the one, Sylvia groaned. Ugh, sometimes I still can't believe that we were both fooled so easily by her fake act, mainly me. No offense to Yonder, but I knew that there was something off about her all along, but he somehow convinced me otherwise. No worries, Sylvia, said Yonder as he patted Sylvia on her side, no offense taken here. Sylvia smiled at Yonder and then gave him a little nudgie on his head. He's just lucky that I was able to out-trick her in the end. But I'll give her one thing, when it comes to it, she's pretty resourceful. She's is a bounty for a reason. I still can't get over the thought of seeing a little kitty cat being an assassin, said Fluttershy, Rarity's cat. Opal is the closest I've ever seen to that, but even she is not skillful enough for such a title. Don't worry, Sylvia, said Yonder as he gave Sylvia a hug around her neck. I am sure that by now Little Bits has changed, and maybe no longer want to hunt down prey like us for Lord Hater. Don't you think so? I highly doubt it. After a while, the meeting finally came to a close, even though it didn't last as long as Twilight wanted it to be. So, this was a very nice meeting, wonderful topics to talk about. So everything is clear on what we have to do? As ready as I am sure we'll ever be, said Applejack. This was a nice talk and all, Rainbow Dash lightly protested, but I still feel like this meeting was a huge waste of time. Pinkie then pounced on top of her wearing a bright smile telling her, don't be silly, Dashy. We got to spend more time with each other. Doesn't that count as something? All Rainbow Dash could do was chuckle at her pink friend and said, as always, you make a good point, Pinkie Pie. Spike suddenly walked up to Wanda and Sylvia being curious of what they were talking about and asked them something completely random. So, is it okay if you two could tell me more of this little bit's enemy of yours? It sounds like a neat idea for a fan story I'm creating. PP please don't ask why though. It's just a thing I do, you know. Wanda hugged him and said, we would love to. Why yes we would, said Sylvia pulling Wanda off of Spike. But I'm already a bit angered talking about her already. Maybe another time, okay? Sure, no problem, said Spike. But it's just that after hearing what you said about her and other enemies of yours the last time you were here just gave me some interesting ideas, but I wasn't quite sure how to go with it. And even though this little bits is evil, it would still be kind of awesome to kind of meet her. Oh no, trust me, you don't want to. Besides, what are the chances of you guys meeting her anyway? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video make sure to like and leave a comment and share it with a friend. See you all later.